I've been thinking about all those things that are being pushed upon us at the moment. We have that strange situation in which a government, a not a for-profit government, a corporation, seems to think that they are our masters, and that we are their servants. They tell us what we're going to have, and for some reason we all acquiesce. And we've kind of forgotten, have we not, that actually these people that we've put into power by taking part in their voting process, by registering ourselves to vote, that they are our servants. After all, we're the ones paying the bills. They all make it very clear that they're not paying the bills and that it's taxpayers' money that is going into all these various things that they're pushing towards us. The ULEZ thing, for example, and the 20-mile-an-hour speed zones and the 15-minute cities and the digital IDs and the potential switch to the CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies, and of course that suicide pact of net zero, in which they want to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide, the gas of life, the things that make things grow, that we will be paying for it one way or another, and they'll ensure that we have to pay for it as they come up with more and more ridiculous schemes which they're putting into law, such as taking away people's wood-burning stoves, forcing the people to get rid of gas boilers and go for these heat pumps, and so on and so on. Have an EV car, although they make life very difficult to even drive a car or charge the car, even if it's an electric vehicle, and they want to get rid of diesel and petrol. We know all of that, and these are effectively, to me, these are the dark forces that are pushing the government down this direction. But we have to remember that we have a power of ourselves. We have free will, firstly, and I mean, it may not seem like we have free will, but we've got to remember we actually do, and we have consent. Now, this is a very tricky thing, because you just think, well, if we've got consent, then I can just simply say no to all of this or ignore it. Well, let's not ignore any of these things, because by staying silent in the legal system, that is assuming or presuming, or the assumption is that you're saying, OK, I agree with it, because you're not rebutting what is put forward to you. And we do have to rebut it, and we have to say no. So the power of no, and not being silent and actually stating our situation, is very important. And some people feel very uncomfortable, don't they, when they have to say no to somebody. For example, you know, you're walking down the street and up comes somebody with perhaps from a charity, one of those chuggers, and they've got their boxes and they're collecting money, or they've got a clipboard, or sometimes these days it's some sort of tablet, electric tablet, and they're after your bank details because they want you to help perhaps save some children, or a dog's home, or the cats or donkeys, or goodness knows what, maybe goblins at the bottom of their garden. Who knows who it is that they're trying to protect and save. And it may be a very laudable sort of charity, and you may feel a bit pressured because they're all young and bouncy, and they're putting on to you, you know, oh, you can't have these things die, can you? Or, you know, a new home for slugs. We really want to save them. Those poor little slugs with their little beady, slippery eyes and all of that. And you're going, oh, yeah, no, it's really sad. And you want to be part of it. But at the same time, you don't really want to have your bank balance taken off by these people having the ability to sort of take the money out of your bank willy-nilly. And you just don't want that private information to be expelled to them. But you feel a bit, oh, golly, what can I do? I want to walk away. And sometimes the ability to say no is difficult. Well, I can help you there instantly. There's a little technique that I use. And I just say to them, thanks ever so much, that's really interesting. Blimey, you know, those poor slugs, those goblins, those cats, those donkeys, those elephants, those MPs that you want to save. It's so laudable and all the rest of it. Only, unfortunately, I have a policy, And my policy is I can never actually divulge my bank details to a stranger in the street. No matter how laudable it is, no matter how good, I'm afraid my policy prevents me from doing that. I do it on the phone as well. People come in and say, oh, would you like to buy this? We've got this. It's a fundraiser. We're trying to save these disabled children or whatever. And it doesn't matter what it is. And they go on and on about it. And they go, yeah, that sounds really great. Sounds amazing. But unfortunately, I can't help you because I have a policy. I have a policy, and the policy says I cannot divulge my personal details over the phone. I cannot give you money over the phone because you're a stranger, or I just can't do it over the phone. You know, if you were here in my front room and we were speaking about it, it would be no problem. But over the phone, my policy is that I can't do it. And that way, it's a great get out. It really does work because it's not you saying it, it's this policy that there is. And this is what these businesses, when they ring you up and they say, oh, well, we've got to renew this and blah, blah, blah. And you go, oh, I don't know. And they say, well, you've got to do it. It's our terms. Our policy does this. And you go, well, my policy doesn't have anything to do with that. Thank you very much. So it's another way of actually saying, no, goodbye, thank you, not interested. Now, of course, these dark forces out there, they know that they want you to acquiesce, and they know that you will acquiesce because they're very clever how some of these dark forces, you know, we saw that a few years ago with the medical intervention, that they persuaded you. There was this dreadful thing that was fluttering about, and the government and mainstream media shot you in the arm with fear through the television and through the newspapers. And then it became your neighbours were telling you, oh, you better put one of these things on your face, and you better go and have one of those because, you know, otherwise you're going to be doing some damage to everybody else. And you may have felt, blimey, I don't want to have any of that nonsense, thank you very much, and found it very difficult to say no. But we've got to be able to say no. We've got to push back all the time because these things are coming at us. And if we acquiesce, or if we just remain silent, bury our head in the sand, that is effectively saying, yeah, okay, I don't mind. Now, we see that with the water, for example. They're putting stuff into the water. And so if we know that they're putting stuff into the water, we can't just ignore it. We have to do something about it. Now, of course, I filter my water, or I'll use, it's quite expensive, but I'll use one of those things that you boil up the kettle and it comes round. Distill it, I think it's called. You distill the water to get the impurities out. But I'm not just going to, oh, all right. But you could push back against the water companies and say, actually, I don't think what you're putting into the water is safe, and I don't want it, thank you very much. And maybe you can get out of paying for it, who knows? But it's certainly worth a go, isn't it? Because if they're not sending you said you were going to send us pure water, H2O. Is that what you're sending? If you're not sending that, I'm not paying the bill. I don't know, maybe that is a thing, but we should be pushing back. We should be saying, no, I don't want those things on us. Now, when it comes to that medical intervention, you kind of think, well, when the government are saying these things, you have to be very careful. Or if it's the police, you know, they come banging on your door, or they're trying to sort of ask you questions about something. I always look at it like this. Everybody is born the same, aren't they? We're all born equal. There's nobody else who's born above me. They might think they have, but they're not really. And we've also got this free will. And we must preserve this free will. We don't want to be enslaved. The only way you can be enslaved is if you agree to it. And so, no, thank you, I don't want this. Now, very often in commerce, in business, in the way that these dead corporations, you know, the government and the councils, and by the way, they are corporations, these are for-profit companies there to extract money from you. If we acquiesce and keep councils or keep the government by registering to vote for them or agreeing to their terms, then we are effectively saying, yes, I agree to you. If we keep those things, then we need to push back about those things that they want us to have, because we should basically not agree to them in the first place. But if they're trying to push things on you, one thing is when they ask you what your name is or who you are. For example, they might send you a letter, and you look at the letter and you think, well, is that me? It's got your name in it, but it's in capital letters. Now, we've talked about the legal fiction in which using a different language but looks like English, the English that you and I speak, it's legalese really, it's the sort of dog Latin language, and you'll see your name in capital letters and you're making the assumption, oh, that's me. But it's not you. Of course it's not you. It's just a piece of paper with words on. I was chatting to a chap only yesterday, and the video is going out later today and you'll see it, in which he said, it's funny, isn't it? Because sometimes, he said, I've been sitting in a cafe and the barista has made me a cup of coffee and he said, one black Americano, and he's put his hand up and says, yes, that's me. And he thought, well, actually, no, I'm not a black Americano, am I? I'm not a drink. I'm a living person. I'm here. What he should have been saying is, yes, that's for me. Now, it may sound like semantics to you, but it is actually very important. So if somebody knocks on the door and they say, hang on, are you so-and-so? Really, we should be asking questions. Well, who wants to know? Who are you? What's this about? Why do you want to know? Can I see a bit of paper that says that's me? So they might show you and go, well, is that you? Well, no, it's not me. That's a bit of paper with words on it. I don't really understand what those words are. Sorry. Thank you very much. Goodbye. We can just say no. So we have to try not to acquiesce to these dark forces that are there to force us into things. So ask questions rather than saying yes and agreeing to it. I mean, it does seem barking to me when people say you need to identify yourself. And I go, well, here I am. This is me. I'm a living, breathing man. Thank you very much. And they said, no, we need a bit of paper to identify, or a photograph that identifies you. And so you might, produce a passport, and they go, well, is that me? Well, no, that's just a carbon copy of me, isn't it? That's not even me. That's a piece of paper. That's not actually me. I don't know how you can identify me. This is me. Look, here I am. You can touch me, prod me, feel me. You can hear me breathing. That's me. That's how I'm identifying. I'm a living man. I'm not a dead entity on a bit of paper or something that's made up. But these dark forces want you to acquiesce so they can give you the things like medical interventions. And the power of no, or refusing to have it, or to say thank you very much but no thanks, or rebutting and not acquiescing, is very important. So to finish off, I want to read you this little bit this is from a book called Word Magic. And it's interesting because the power of no is so important, and the power of actually speaking out and saying no, and I don't want it, is important. I just want to read this last little paragraph, if that's okay. So it says here, because being silent is a form of consent, it's important to be aware that the dark forces are doing it is aware of what the dark forces are doing so that you can say no and preserve your consent. Ignoring the dark forces is not going to preserve your consent. When enough of us say no and preserve our consent, the dark forces and their minions would have to back off and leave us alone. If they were not to leave us alone and keep harassing or harming us, they would violate our free will and would have to face the consequences of their actions. All thoughts, intentions and actions are known by God, and there is no escaping the consequences of violating his laws. Now, you might interpret God as the source or the universe, or however you want to interpret that. But it does seem that the dark forces, they actually, it's not just that they willy-nilly do these things. They're aware of karma. They're aware that they have to gain our consent. It says here there are millions and possibly billions of people on earth who think that they can achieve spiritual freedom or stop the crimes against mankind by ignoring what the dark forces and their new world order are doing. These people are living in a delusional state of mind and are actually making it easier for the dark forces to enslave mankind. If you want to prevent the dark forces from enslaving mankind, you need to become aware of what they're doing so that you can say no to their actions and agendas. Remember, silence implies consent. So I think that is absolutely vital, that we find out what they're doing, and many of us are trying to sort of work that out, and that we don't acquiesce, we don't put our head in the sand, and we turn round to them and we simply say no.